The Crown alleges that Mr. murdered Mr. Bush by shooting him in the chest on the 24th of October 1987. The ultimate issue is whether you are satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that Mr. and Mr. Hoggart were the two offenders. The Crown's opening address identified the factors linking the defendants with the robbery and murder as, first, the general description of the offenders was consistent with them being Mr. and Mr. Hoggart. Second, the defendants were known to have been associating at the time. Third, the defendants' movements either side of the robbery and murder are consistent with them being the offenders. Fourth, the defendants' claims as to their whereabouts at the time of the robbery and murder cannot be corroborated and should be discounted as lies. Fifth, they had a motive to commit the robbery. They were broke and wanted money to buy British motorcycles. Sixth, Mr. talked ahead of time to others about his plans to rob the Red Fox Tavern. Seventh, Mr. had a prior conviction for a very similar aggravated robbery of a pub. Eighth, Mr. was in possession of a double-barrelled side-by-side sawn-off shotgun, which was the murder weapon. Ninth, Mr. had access to orange gloves of the style worn by the offender with the bat. 10th, both defendants inexplicably came into money after the robbery and murder. Circumstances on which the defence relies are, first, the description of the offenders by Miss as Maori or Polynesian by their voice. Second, but the fact of friendship has no evidential significance at all. Third, although witnesses may have placed the defendants together in the days prior to the robbery and murder and in the hours afterwards, there's no direct linkage to the crime. Fourth, the defendants accounted for their movements to the police as best they could 3 months after the robbery and murder. The delay meant that their recall may not have been completely accurate. Fifth, the bikes were purchased from savings. Sixth, many prisoners talked about proposed crimes as a means of big noting. Others had specifically said they would target the Red Fox. Seventh, there are no real similarities between the robbery and the Red Fox robbery and murder, such that it has no evidential significance at all. Eighth, possession of firearms was relatively common in Mr. circle of friends. Ninth, thousands and thousands of gloves of many different types could have left the glove impression on the safe handle. And 10th, the defendants explicably had money. Mr. had $2,000 to $3,000 when he came out of prison, had the ability to earn more through tattooing. Members of the jury, that brings me to the end of my summing up.